Welcome to the Home Building Hub, your essential podcast guide to building your new home. Hosted by industry experts Colin Bischoff and Darren Brennan, this conversational podcast will help better educate you about all things new home building so you can avoid costly mistakes and enjoy your building experience to the fullest, no matter which home builder you choose.
Hey there folks, welcome to the Home Building Hub. You're with Colin and co-host Darren Brennan as always. And today, Daz, we've got a very special guest. He's come back for a second time. We had to pay him a little bit more. His name is Walt Collins. And just for those who don't know Walt, you won't have to go too far to find out who he is. So he is here to talk to us about pools and pool trends in 2025. And we're going to talk a little bit about his new show that's called Pool Spa Life Australia. And Walt, you're soon becoming the face of homes in every way, shape and form. We've got new neighbourhoods coming out later this year. You've talked to us about your other show, Buy to Build. There's Healthy Homes Australia, Animal Extra, Country House Facelift, which is actually your own reno, which you're sitting in right now. And then, we're going to talk about the pool stuff today. So welcome aboard, mate. Thank you so much for coming along. And how are you doing?
Lovely to be back. Thanks for having me back. I feel like, the encore might always be a bit more spicy than the premiere. So, it's lovely to see you boys. You guys are killing it. Well done.
No, thank you. Yeah, we're certainly enjoying what we're, putting together. And I think this is a high 80s in episode number. I can't remember what number we're up to now, Cole, but we keep trying to be really consistent in getting the content out there. And we're getting plenty of good feedback. I think that just consumers are always looking for answers and it's hard to find them. So, again, today's episode, I think will be fantastic talking about pools and just alluding to some of the things that are happening out there. And
what I love about you guys is that you ask the questions that seem sometimes too silly that people wouldn't dare ask normally if they're new to this game. So you'll go in and ask those questions. And that's what we've built a whole, little empire of TV shows around, is kind of going in and asking those questions that might just seem a bit too silly. Because if you're a novice, if you're just starting out on your home building journey, there's lots of lingo talk, isn't there? There's lots of language and words shown around which you think, well, what does that mean? So a lot of you guys go and delve into it a bit.
Yeah, we do. And even we kicked off, we mentioned the word titled land in one of the first episodes, and someone sent a message saying, hey, what's titled land? Like, we just assume that people know. So the whole podcast is designed around that, keeping it simple and educating buyers so they don't necessarily have to go and talk to a sales consultant straight away and feel like they're being sold to up front and things like that. So that's good feedback. And a lot of the stuff we cover is more of the detail of the house, quoting stuff and things like that. We don't touch too much on the trend side of things and the inspiration and the aspirational sort of stuff. So this would be a good sort of shift and change of pace for us to go. And I think some of the feedback, Darren, we get in the notes is actually around this stuff, a bit more of colour-based, upgrade-based, selection-based, trend-based content.
The fun stuff.
Yeah, the fun stuff, which we're just probably not qualified to talk about it, Darren. I mean, we talked about once one of us were adding a red door, didn't we? And that was about it. But so we bring the experts on. I think that'll be the
bringing back that 2010 vibe with the red doors.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's do it, Darren. Let's kick off.
Well, I did have the pleasure, Walt, of watching one of your episodes a couple of weeks ago by absolute fluke. I'm like, I'm going to turn the telly on. I'm going to try. And it was actually on. And I actually, I've got a pool in my backyard here. I'm in Ballarat. And I absolutely love it. One of the key measures for us in moving to Ballarat when we moved from Melbourne was we wanted a pool in our backyard. If we didn't have a pool, we weren't moving there. And it's, we're in it all the time. The weather's obviously been fantastic this summer. And
I was going to say, do you have a heater in that thing in Ballarat? Because the last time I was swimming a pool in Ballarat, it was starting to freeze over and had to get the Russian head of ship to help me out.
Jumped in last night and the pool was 34. So it's like a big bath. It is just magnificent. And you can be in there till all hours of the night. So, and ours isn't, we did buy a second-hand home and so we had the pool in the backyard already and it had solar heating on it. And, so it's not the latest and greatest of the tech, but it still does a fantastic job. And, obviously being able to just get in there with that sort of temperature is amazing. But watching some of the pools that you were showing on the show was just fantastic. So maybe give us a bit of a rundown and tell us a little bit about your new TV show, Pool Spa Life Australia.
Yeah, so we jumped to a different network for this one. I've been on Channel 10 for most of my career. So there was an opportunity to come and host a show on Nine, thanks to Nine Entertainment and in particular Nine Life, and it was called Pool Spa Life Australia. And it's backed by SPASA. So SPASA are like the governing industry body behind swimming pools and spas in Australia. And they wanted a show in the similar format as Healthy Homes has been. So if you've ever seen any of my work before, you'll know we do a bit of a deep dive into a product and we say, well, does it do what it says it does? Does it behave in the way it will say? And then we'll show people the benefits of it and then try and install one and, give home improvements. Pool Spa Life was about stripping it right back to preach to the unconverted. So people that didn't have a pool or people that inherited a pool, much like yourself, Darren, and say, righto, well, where do you start here? Because technology has changed, pool ownership has changed over the last even 10 years. And what's out there to make swimming, owning, loving your pool easier and better and more sustainable. And so we created a show about that. And so we went all around Australia looking at these beautiful pools, some tiny, some $1 million pools, and working out, well, what's everyone doing for their water profile? Are they having minerals? Are they having chlorines? What technology they're putting in there to pump and filter the water, and what's changed and what's developed. And so, Pool Spa Life's just finished its first season, and it went down amazingly. We were super happy with the ratings and everything, so it's gone really well. So they've already green-lighted season 2, so we're about to kick off.
Yeah, great. I think everyone wants a pool, though, don't they? In reality, like we all want one. So, when we're lucky enough to get one, I know I've got, as I say, I've got a pool. Colin's got a spa, so it fits right in. So,
it's a bit split because everyone wants a pool, but a lot of people are still stuck in this kind of 90s mindset of, or they're expensive to run, and they're a nightmare. And if you've got a pool, there people are just buying them and filling them in and all that. But it's actually not really like that anymore. It's a whole different kettle of fish, and so the mindset now has really shifted with pool ownership. I mean, when you say swimming pool, swimming is a very generous kind of word to what most Australians will get in their backyard. You're not going to swim more than 3 strokes until you're at the end, but and so they're more like a leisure body of water these days. And that's why Plungy have come in and those plunge pools, and they've really captured a dream and a vision there. And, if you're lucky enough to be able to have a 9-meter pool in your backyard, then you're starting to do a few swim strokes. But you got to think of a swimming pool now as a new lounge room in the water for your family to enjoy, mum and dad to enjoy, kids on their own. So it's really got to be a bit more of a thought process behind it.
That's like a bombing pad, you just get out there and it's like, who can make the biggest splash? And I'm not a small bloke, so it goes pretty well for me.
Yeah. I was going to say, you'd go all right there, Darren, no doubt. Well, let's kick off then with the trends. Well, what, I guess, as part of the show and what you've come to learn, what are some of the trends in pools right now?
So it's good to prefix this chat with, I'm not a pool expert, just so you know, because there'll be people listening to this going, well, what does he know? He's just done one sort of, season of a pool show. But I'm definitely a pool enthusiast. I have owned a pool, been in a house that had pools before. But I've learned a lot through this show and through speaking to the people that are changing the game, leading the field in their industry. And there has been a real lean that we saw, no question about it, was a trend towards white coloured pools. So that colour scheme of white, light, bright, that is on fire at the moment, the last couple of years, and certainly forecasting into the next 2-3 years, a white pool. And I put a beautiful Narellan pool, it was a Whitehaven Pearl, and it looks almost white, but when the water's in, just because of the discoloration of the water, it looks green, like a very light Edith Vale Beach green, it's just this gorgeous turquoise color, and it just brings a golden gem. I feel like I want a pool to lift a space. A dark, deep blue pool with lots of heavy, dark materials around it can look really heavy. And that trend from the deep, dark royal blues and things, it's kind of moved on a little bit. And a couple of pool builders said to me, you'll never put they broke it down to city versus country. If you live in a little inner city place and you've got a deep, dark pool, that's fine. But if you're out anywhere further than 40 minutes from the city, you don't want a dark pool because that's where the snakes go. And if there's a snake in that pool, you are not going to see it against a big, dark, deep blue body of water. Whereas a white pool, you're going to see every frog, every snake, everything that jumps into it. I mean, and then they're right, you know.
Yeah, we'll try and avoid those in my backyard. Thanks.
Australia, hey. But the also the thing to consider too is that there's a trend as well. I mean, but back in the old days when you talked about swimming pool, it was a blue pool that had a liner on, you know, inside, and it could be in the ground. And you know, your Auntie Ethel's thick fungus and toenail might cut a hole through that liner, and you got to patch it up underneath. And you know, there was the old days was all about the chlorine water, and anyone that's had children, especially girls with long blondish light hair, the chlorine in the water used to make their hair go green after the end of summer, you know. So chlorine has all but vanished now in terms of the chemical profiles. It's no good for your skin. And I mean, your skin's one of the biggest sponges in the entire body. So everything that you rub on, anything that you come into contact with, anything that you shower in absorbs into your skin through transdermal properties. So when you're swimming in a toxic chemical like chlorine, well, your body's absorbing all of that chlorine into your blood system. So there's been a move away from chlorine, and then we went through a salt water pool stage. We went through like a fresh water with a tiny hint of salt, and now it's well and truly the king of swimming pools is mineral and magnesium based swimming pools, and they're beautiful. I'm not sure if you boys have ever swam in one, but the water is silky smooth. It feels like it leaves this amazing feel in your skin. People reporting sleeping better at night because those magnesium and mineral benefits. And then the way it's cleaned is there's a chlorinator, and it's got like, well, how do I describe it? It's like a toilet roll tube, a big one, and it's got fins of metal in, and the tiny bit of magnesium salt that interacts with those creates just enough chlorine, 1 part per million, so almost undetectable by humans, as enough to keep the nasties out of your pool and keep your pool clean. So light pools, mineral-based magnesium, that's been the trend for this current like era of swimming pool design.
And what about apps, automation, that side of it? Is that something that's happening as well, I assume, with technology?
Smart pools, they're a thing. The robot life, smart pools, everything's on your app these days. So it's made pool ownership a lot easier. I mean, you'll know, Darren, like if you've got a house that's got a slightly older pool in there, that you're having to do a daily trip to the big utilities shed with all your pumps and your filters and clunk this and turn that, and then grind something and turn a tap on and backwash and do this and do that and the other. Now it's all done via apps. So the technology is so advanced that it's not only streamlining your input, so your chemicals and things. It tells you what temperature the water is. It tells you the pH of the water. It will tell you how much mineral content there is in there. Like you're basically doing a water test yourself on your phone, and controlling your heaters. You can controlling your schedules for your filters. It's all done via app, via Wi-Fi modules, and it has totally revolutionized pool ownership. And in particular, if you have a spa these days, now if it's 2 p.m. and you think, oh, you know what, me and the misso will have a spa tonight, you can flick it on through your phone and get it warmed up, ready for when you get home, and it's all bubbling away, ready to go and things. So like smart homes with smart tech, this technology has completely revolutionized the pool industry, and we've seen that. I've seen that everywhere.
Yeah, it's certainly ours isn't quite advanced like that, but I guess it is. And the advancements are amazing, and that just makes it easier. But you've always got to spend a little bit of time. I know many years ago I sold pool chemicals, and we used to tell people you got to spend a little bit of money on these things. You got something worth a car. You service your car, it's probably about the same cost to service your pool a year as what it costs to service your car. So if you spend that kind of money, you're going to have this amazing asset in your backyard that you want to use because it's going to look absolutely amazing. And I think, we've been here in our house for 6.5 years. Our salt chlorinator played up once and it went green. That's the only time it's been green in 6.5 years. Like, we pride ourselves year round. The pool is absolutely spanking, and you want to go out and look at it. In the middle of winter, you're thinking, I wonder how cold it really is, like you want to know if you're brave enough. And no, I'm not brave enough anymore, but a few years ago I used to jump in pretty cold. But it's such an inviting area of the home to, if you've got it right. And,
it's like blokes in their lawns and There's a thing with men in their pools. They want the sparkliest pool, the cleanest pool, the fanciest pool, this, that, and the other. So there's a real, when you get a pool, you don't realize you become a pool person. And I didn't realize I'd be out there every morning. And there's still a lot of manual stuff you have to do with a pool. Like you've got to, get in there with, a device to dust off your ledges, because all pools these days have ledges and steps. And if you live in a dusty area, it settles in overnight and you get, especially with a white pool, you see a layer of dust. So sweep it off into the pool, water, put your filters on. But yeah, everything's controlled via apps. Everything is like really, well, it's also enabled it to be a lot more sustainable too with your running of it. So you're using less water, less power to heat and things. So all in all, now pool ownership is brilliant. And if you've been thinking about it and you're on the fence, like don't be put off by old school stories of pool ownership. Just get one. It's brilliant.
Yeah, agree. Obviously, most of our listeners are looking at building a brand new home, so there's no pool in the backyard. So, what's the advice you'd give them when they're looking at dealing with a pool builder or installer? How do you see that play out for most people?
So yeah, you've got to think. You've got to think about the build. I mean, you guys will have covered this, I'm sure, but obviously, like the pool's got to go in first in most instances. So before they even lay a slab down for your house, chances are you're building out in an estate somewhere that's you've got house and land, and there's enough space for a small pool in the backyard. Well, the pool's got to be dug first, and then it gets, if it's fiberglass or concrete, it'll get set, it'll get done, and then it'll have a lid on it, a construction-proof lid, and then the house will be built in front of it, because once the house is there, chances are you're going to have not enough access to do it. So that's the first and foremost point, is check your access, check your compliance, check your local regulations, employ a builder. They'll help you do that. But you need to think about, and someone said to this to me once, and it's really rang true, is if you can't see that pool from your kitchen window or your lounge window, don't bother, because it needs to be a focal point. You need to be able to see it, to remind yourself you have a pool, to get in that pool, to keep your eyes on the people that are in the pool. So positioning is key. And then you need to think about the style of pool that you want. So when you come to choose a pool builder, basically pools are broken down into 4 categories. There's fiberglass pools. And again, fiberglass has come such a long way. They're infusing them with carbon and titanium these days, and they have lifetime guarantees, some of them. Like, it's incredible. There are concrete pools. So concrete pools are, for the most part, made on site. So they'll dig a hole and they'll put formwork in, and then they'll fill that with concrete, and then it's all built on site. All the plumbing's done, everything's all done there. And then, that's the concrete version. The third is a precast or plunge pool. They come on the back of a truck, just like a fiberglass pool, and then it's craned in over the house or however it is, and it's lowered onto what's normally, what's normally a concrete, foundation, and it sits on top, and that's craned in. It's an affordable option for a smaller pool. And the fourth category really is like polymer, so like a pool with a liner. So that can be an above ground pool with a frame and then the liner in there. So when you choose your builder, you need to know which one you're going to want already. Most people are going with fiberglass because it's easy, it's affordable. You can be swimming in 12 weeks with fiberglass, because as soon as the fiberglass is put in, the water is put in on the same day of the install to make it set and hold there. So you're in swimming much quicker. Concrete can take a little bit longer. In some instances, there's no way you're going to be able to put a fiberglass pool into your yard, because it depends on your soil type, it depends on the land, it depends what it's doing with the land. So you are going to have a concrete pool. If you're in that space of saying, well, I don't know if mine's going to be concrete or fiberglass, whichever pool builder you're going to go to, they're going to try and pull you over to their side, right? Away from the dark side, they'll call it. So my advice would be go and say, well, go and speak to a pool builder that does both, because a lot of pool builders do both fiberglass and concrete, and then they can offer you an honest opinion on that. And whether you go with them or not, in the end, you've got a bit of a balanced view about it. Check their warranties. For example, we were talking about equipment and maintenance. Most pool companies now require you to have monthly tests on your water and your equipment in order to keep your warranty or your guarantee intact. And if you miss one of those and you've got to do a claim, they'll say, oh, well, you didn't do your pH test in January last year, so that's what's gone wrong. So You really need to know what their warranty system is, what their maintenance schedule will be, and then read their reviews. Have a look at the reviews online and see how they've gone there. And then when you're happy with them, they'll help you, of course, go through the whole process and install it. The big thing I say, guys, is um, all a pool builder does is dig a hole, put a pool in according to the regulation, and put a fence around it, right? And get it up and running. And then they walk away. So you're left with an entire mud pit in your backyard with a sparkling swimming pool in, and all of a sudden you've realized that you haven't got any money left for turf, for tiles, for any landscaping, to plant a flower, to put grass seed down. So unless you've got money for landscaping, do not put a pool in. Do not think about buying a pool, because you need to have someone to come in, level off the ground around it, put topsoil down, put turf, put tiles, put travertine, put umbrellas in, whatever, because most pool builders don't do that. Build you the pool, and then they swan off and you're left with a mud pit.
And that can be the difference too on how they present from a design point of view. The landscape's as important as the pool, right? Like, get the landscape right around it, can look absolutely amazing. Do a dodgy job on the landscaping, and you've got this amazing looking pool. You know, it's like Christmas decorations on a garbage can. Like,
well, it is, and what they'll do is they'll bring these beautiful glossy brochures in with all these sparkling jewels full of water and all these skinny bikini models having a margarita poolside under an umbrella. But that's not what you're buying. You're just buying the shell of the pool and the install. So, you got to think about how you want all of the surrounds to be. And a lot of pool companies say, "Oh, listen, we've got a contract to work with regularly. They'll do the landscaping." But it's a whole separate quote. It's a whole separate investment, and sometimes, it's minimum 20 grand for your landscaping and your surrounds, then plus all the pool build and the install and things. It's a really expensive exercise.
And a lot of boxes to tick with compliance. Correct. And all that sort of stuff. Pool or spa, there's some hurdles to jump. So diving a bit deeper then, so that's the type of pool options. What about things like heating, filtration? What sort of recommendations do you have? Going a little bit deeper into that.
That's a good question, because there's so many of them as well. So, there are several different elements you need to run a pool. You need, obviously, the pool. So we tick that off. Then you need, obviously, the water. You need to work out how you're going to, what water profile you call it. So is that salt? Is that chlorine? Is that minerals? And then that will dictate what kind of filter you have, what kind of sanitizer you have, and what kind of heater you have. Now, people in Queensland will be listening to this going, "Oh, you need to heat your water? What is this? Is it? We're in Antarctica or something here, are we?" But if you live, Sydney or South, you need a pool heater. Otherwise, you're only swimming in it for 5 weeks of the year. There's several different kinds of ways that you will start with heating that you can heat your pool with. There's the old school pump, and then the black tubes that go all over your roof, which use the heat of the sun to heat the water, and it's pumped through like a pump system. And then there's, old school heaters that they have, which most of them are obsolete now. The big change has been heat pump systems. So that's what I had in my pool. And whilst the initial purchase, there can be between 15 and 20 grand for a good pool heater to do an 8-meter pool. The cost savings are dramatic. They'll reduce the cost of what it takes to heat your pool by up to 80%, between 70 and 80, depending on the brand. It's massive. And a heat pump, all you're paying for really, it's a refrigerator. It works like an air conditioner compressor, but in reverse. So there's a refrigerant that's pumped through at pressure, and whatever temperature the air is outside, even down to kind of like 10 degrees, there's a heat interaction with the air and the compressed gas, and that heats the water. It's like a miraculous technology. So all you're paying for is the cost of the fan, and then the cost of the pump to pump the water through that particular fan. Revolutionary. It takes a bit longer to heat your pool, but if you have solar power, you can offset the cost of running that heater with your solar and use your pool almost like a solar storage battery, because you can heat it and then put your lid on overnight, and then the next morning you've still got a 25-degree pool to swim in. Yeah. So that's one thing. And then the filtration system, there's a couple of different ones. There's media filter, and that doesn't mean to say it's full of VHS and CDs and bits and pieces. It's actually full of like broken glass, usually like cat litter, and it uses pressurized system to put all the debris through the gravel, as it were, and it all lands at the bottom. And then it's clean. Your water's clean. It's pumped through, but you have to backwash. You have to evacuate quite a few hundred litres sometimes of water from the filter to get rid of the dirty stuff. Or there's canister filters. And a canister filter literally is like a tap water filter you'd have under your sink. It's got canisters with all the paper, corrugated paper around, and they filter the water. And all you do for those is you take them out and you wash them under the garden hose quickly, put them back in, tie them off again, and you've got your filtration. Then, of course, there's sanitization. So you have to then sanitize the water. There's a mixture of UV lighting. There's a mixture of, salt chlorination. There's all sorts of different things on the market. It will depend on what kind of water you have. So if you mastered those 4 things, you're on your way to having a really affordably run swimming pool or spa.
And it's like
Look at me talking like an expert.
Yeah. I know, fantastic. But obviously, if you look after it and you're constantly looking after it, it's probably going to cost you less in the long run. If you do the old, it's winter, bugger to let it turn green, and then none of the equipment's being looked after, it's going to cost you more money to one, get it back to being swimmable, and 2, the damage that you're doing to your equipment by not letting it actually do its job long term. So
yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, there's lots of ways to look at it. So the biggest thing people do is run an inefficient pool, and so they'll have the heater on overnight, but no cover on. So it's just like, that's trying to boil a saucepan of water with no lid on. It's going to take a lot longer and all the heat's going to escape. If you put a lid on, or in the industry, they call it a blanket, a pool blanket, or we call it a cover. If you just put one of those on overnight, that will retain up to about 65 to 70% of your heat inside the water ready for the next day. Because obviously in Victoria, for example, it gets down to 12 degrees in summer overnight, but then we'll go to 38 degrees during the day. So you're going to lose all that heat. So, that just being smart, like you stopping water evaporation. If you're not swimming for a couple of days, you're going away, put the cover on, and that will stop water evaporating, because an average swimming pool on a hot summer's day above 35 degrees can lose up to 300 litres in a week, of evaporation. So you're having to constantly top that up. Actually, it's in 24 hours, not a week. And then, and all the heat can escape as well. So efficiency with your equipment, maintain it regularly, make sure you've got the right size equipment for the right size pool. And you're on your way to running a sustainable pool. Variable speed pumps are something that I always say to people we need to take note of, because a pump is one of the biggest consumers of power for your swimming pool. That's what costs the money to run it. And in the old days, your pump was on or it was off. And it was on, it was full bore, and even you have it on for maybe 5 or 6 hours in a day, pumping the water through your system. It goes off at night on a timer, maybe comes on for an hour during the night just to circulate the water, then back on again at 6 a.m. Now they've invented variable speed pumps. So your pool will know when it only needs to use a lower setting on the pump. It goes, oh, you know what? We're doing pretty good with all the filtration. We'll just give it a little gentle circulation on the lower setting of the pump, which uses 20% of the power it would at full bore. So with all those things, you're adding up to a more sustainable pool.
That's great. I guess the how long's a piece of string question for you would be, what should people expect to spend on a pool to put one in?
Yeah. It's like walking into a travel agency and going, how much is my holiday going to cost? They're going to say, well, how many's going? Where do you want to go? How long for? It's a similar thing with pools, I think. But my experience has been that you can get, you can get a pool in for 35 grand. You could get an above ground pool, and put some deck around it and all, a bit of fencing, and you can have a bit of a cheap job done properly and it'll look okay. 45K is probably about the minimum you expect a fiberglass pool to go in, because again, you've got 15 to 20 grand for your heat pump, your filtration system, 5-6 grand, then the install, the build itself. So you're probably really realistically saying from 45 grand all the way through to 150 for an average size backyard. And then if you want to go fancier with infinity edges and custom build pools, then you start talking 200K plus.
Yeah, so they're not cheap, but again, it's that investment long term in your home and your lifestyle, and I think we all want that. You want to come home and feel like you're living in a resort, right?
I think so. It's a great. You don't realize how much. Well, what most pool builders I've spoken to, I said, "What's your favorite part of the job?" And they all say it's when we hand over and we see those kids jump in the pool. We know that they're going to have a lifetime of memories. All their family photos are going to be around the pool. Their friends are going to go in the pool. Like you're gifting your family a lifestyle, which is a pure luxury. There's nothing, you can't sugarcoat it. Having a pool is a luxury, and you're gifting that to your family by installing one. And it is a lifestyle. It gets you off the screens. It gets you into the water. It gets you splashing around. And the data is in about property values. So houses with swimming pools, according to Kelly Ryan, the Real Estate Institute of Victoria, houses with swimming pools have more value than the next door neighbor that doesn't have one. And that's the data. And so in the old days, pools, people used to say, oh, if you've got a pool, it'll reduce the value. People don't want this. Not anymore. The reality is you're going to add value to your property.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's excellent. That's very good advice. Some interesting sort of tips in there. One around the running of the heat pump that was shared with me is ringing your electricity provider and confirming when the peak times are on and off, and making sure that if you can run it in the off peak, save you a fair bit there. That's one little thing I was told. But I guess to finish this up, Walt, any final advice for home buyers looking to install a pool? What else could we just finish off on?
I think just think carefully about the budget. Like if you're in a position to maybe, I don't know, fund it through your mortgage, or you've got savings, or don't go taking out loans to put pools in. I think you've got to be within your means, because the dream is there and it's tantalizing, it's aspirational, but it's expensive, and it is expensive to run. Like it can cost a bit for that day-to-day power consumption and everything else. So just think, like, realistically, can we actually afford this right now? And are we going to be taking on too much financial stress to pay for one? That's first and foremost. And second, just think about the house, the space, the design, and try and build something that fits in with your current surroundings, your current setup, and try and design a pool which is going to be super functional, easy access, that's going to look lovely, that's going to be a centerpiece when you're not using it, because the kids might grow up and leave home, and then you're left with a big pool. So can you have a barbecue next to the pool, or you have to have it outside the pool fence these days? But can you have a nice area where you're going to be able to sit and enjoy when you're not swimming, or you don't let the whole pool take up the backyard and you have no backyard left. So just think pragmatically about it. But the main thing is speak to the experts. Get some quotes, get some ideas together, and just sit back and think it through.
Yeah, fantastic. I think the other one, you when I was chatting to you a couple of weeks ago, you just presented at the Pool and Spa Expo, and again, places like that are a great avenue. I mean, yeah, you're going to see everything under the sun, but it might be the really early starting point is to head to one of the expos, listen to the speakers, get some info from that, and then hone in on those local builders to get, knowing where you're heading and which sort of style you're after, and that starts to head into reality, I guess.
And there's a great show on 9 called Pool Spa Life Australia. You can also watch that as well, and that will give you some advice.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
Yes. So, and also, Darren, choose your budgie smugglers. You don't want to scare the neighbours as well. So you want to make sure that you've got your budgie smugglers chosen perfectly.
Yeah, thankfully we've got high fences and no budgie smugglers, so we're okay.
It is cold in Ballarat, right? That's your excuse.
That's it.
No, that's another thing to consider is, I guess the screening off from the neighbours if they're not too far away. So we've had to consider that with our spa situation. Same thing, but that's
lots
good.
To think about.
You said so. What's the name of the show? What is it on, or where can you watch it, and what time?
Well, you can watch it now. It's just finished its first encore, its first premiere broadcast. So it's on. You'll be able to see it on 9 now, and just jump on there and search for Pool Spa Life, or if you just Google my name, Walt Collins, it comes up with all the different stuff that we've done all about pools and spas and houses. You'll find it all there.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, Walt, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming on again. And for those who have listened and enjoy it, please jump on, leave us a 5-star review on the platform you're using. And if you've got any other questions, topic ideas, any feedback, please send us an email, hello@homebuildinghub.com.au, or you can leave a comment on the website. So thanks again, Walt. Thanks, Daz, and everyone. We look forward to seeing you on the next one.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to the podcast, guys. And just our disclaimer, whilst we're all about providing value to you, this podcast should not be considered as legal or financial advice. It contains general information only, and you should seek out independent professional advice on your personal situation before making any legal or financial decisions.
1, 2,